Today we're going to be answering what is the dumbest thing that you ever got yelled at for in the military. Leading off, we're going to talk about things that I have personally been yelled at for while in the military. The very first memory that always pops up is my rackmate having a seizure in boot camp. So it was like week 1 in recruit training, and you're doing, they call it an IT session, which is intensive training. It's basically like a series of like push-ups and jumping jacks, or we call them side straddle hops, and lunges and flutter kicks and air squats. And I'm sure there's some crunches, just like a whole bunch of like calisthenic workout on the ground. And my rackmate, who was on the top bunk of my rack, this is like week 1, week 2 in boot camp, so we were very new to this. He had gotten in trouble for something, and he was getting IT'd. And during his IT session, he had a seizure. I don't know what happened, right? So they're like, they call the ambulance, and then they bring him over to put him back in the rack. And they're like, what rack was his? And I'm like, he's on the top, sir. And they go, good. So they threw him on my rack because they weren't going to put the guy who's having a seizure up on the top bunk, right? So they put him on my bunk. And then because they needed me to not be in the space while they were like working on him, waiting on the paramedics to show up, the best way they could find for me to get out of the way was to say, you need to finish his IT session. And so whatever he had been getting in trouble for, they decided he hadn't gotten enough punishment. So to get me away from the rack, I got to finish his punishment. So I messed up by existing. Another one was at boot camp was getting ahead. I'll distinctly remember we were rolling up the straps on the LB pack, the old main pack that we had at boot camp. Roll up the straps, and you would take electrical tape and wrap them up because you don't want all the straps just floating around. So you would roll them up really tight and then wrap them up with electrical tape. And we were going strap by strap by strap. And I kind of got the idea that like we were going strap by strap by strap. And so I just got ahead and started doing all the straps. And then I got my ass chewed for, thinking I knew what was coming next and had to undo all the straps that I had done ahead. And then guess what? What came next was we rolled up all those straps, and I had been right, but it didn't matter because I got ahead. And that was the lesson, because I hadn't been told to do it yet. I also, on multiple occasions, got my ass chewed for not being somewhere that nobody had told me I needed to be, i.e., maybe I had duty and no one had me on the duty roster, or maybe they changed PT to be at a different time or a different place and I didn't know that PT had been changed, or maybe we had training of sorts that I didn't know about and I had to go be there, but I didn't know, so I wasn't there. Long short, I got chewed out for bad leadership. I also got chewed out quite a few times for being on the medical hit list. Basically a list that comes out and says, hey, you need to do this physical health assessment. Hey, you need to get the flu shot. Hey, you need to get this vaccine. Hey, you need to do this. Hey, you're on the hit list, meaning you got to get some stuff done. And you'd go do it, and then they'd forgot to change the hit list, or you'd do it after they updated the hit list for the day, and so you'd still be on the list, and you have to go back, and you have to be like, yep, there's where I signed the roster, please take me off the list, and then they'd forget, and you'd get chewed out again, and you'd spend a whole bunch of time going to medical just to confirm that you'd already been to medical, because there's no big boy rules. Nobody trusted you when you said, I got the flu shot yesterday. A fun one was 2 forklifts and a quad con. I got yelled at by a master gunnery sergeant for this. I won't name him because he's a friend. We're still buddies. I say buddies. We still talk. I was the motor transportation ops chief for this motor pool. Big motor pool in Hawaii. I'm not going to name the unit. I'm trying not to incriminate anyone here. And we were loading quad cons, which is like a smaller version of an ISO container. Basically 4 quad cons fit in an ISO container onto the back of a 7-ton, one of our trucks, the MTVR. And we had to load the quad cons onto the 7-ton, but the tram that we needed for it was unavailable until much later that day, and it just wasn't going to work. So my Marines took it upon themselves to load the quad cons on the 7-ton in whatever way they felt possible, right? I.e., in this situation, it was they took forklifts, which do not have enough capacity to lift said quad con, and slid in from both sides on this quad con and lifted it, and they had it just suspended in the air and then backed the truck under the quad con and loaded it. Not the right way to do it. Not necessarily smart, but it works. And where the only place that they really went wrong on this is that they did it plain sight of the main road that the motor pool is on. And so my master guns, the actual motor T chief, driving down the road, and my phone rings. I'm not even at the motor pool at the moment. I'm somewhere completely else. And I get blasted about these idiots. And basically the whole conversation could have been summarized as, tell them to do it where other people can't see it. Because he got it. We were trying to make the mission happen. Also, I got yelled at in Afghanistan because I wasn't at an accountability formation. This was the very first week we were in Afghanistan. 2010, there was a SMU fire, which is a supply maintenance unit, caught fire on Camp Leatherneck, Afghanistan. It was our first week in country before we pushed out to like the smaller bases we were going to be supporting. SMU fire happens. I'm in the chow hall eating. We hear it. We see it. We run outside, and we were trying to help. And in trying to help, which largely, we don't need to talk about any of that, but trying to help, which means that we were there longer than we necessarily had to be. And unbeknownst to us, they had done an accountability formation on the other side of the base where our unit had been to make sure that everybody was okay, because there was a fire going on base and they wanted to make sure everyone was okay. And so, we were trying to help put out the fire. The right thing to do, mind you. And that was one of the worst ass chewings I ever got. First Sergeant Coombs, who retired as a sergeant major. Dude looked like Brock Lesnar, big son of a, and he was up our ass about being late to an accountability formation because we were the last few people to trickle in. And we were trying to help with the situation. It was like one of those moments where I almost wanted to just be like, Marines used to get awards for this kind of, and we're getting our ass chewed. In Afghanistan, I got yelled at for not doing any MCIs, which is like these tests we have to do to help get promoted. And I got yelled at for not doing any because I wasn't doing any personal development while in Afghanistan. Also in Afghanistan, I got yelled at for not having a haircut. Now, granted, it had been like a month, but we didn't have clippers. What do you want me to do? Our entire platoon got yelled at for our boots being unbloused. This was actually pretty funny. We were on this bridge mission. It's like June, July, August. It is hot in Afghanistan. And it got so bad, we're sitting in our trucks, whatever. There was a point in time where I'm pretty sure there were days where I didn't even tie my boots. It was I'd leave them unbloused. So you blouse your boots so bugs and stuff don't get inside. But I left my boots unbloused. I left my boots untied. I had my undershirt was off. It was anything you could do to try to not be hotter because it was miserable. And somehow, some way, the combat camera, now public affairs, Marine who was with us was taking pictures. And this picture of us rebuilding this bridge project in Afghanistan somehow makes it in front of the Assistant Commandant of the Marine Corps' desk. And all we hear is that all the way from the Assistant Commandant of the Marine Corps down, we got blasted for our boots being unbloused in Afghanistan. Whoops. I got yelled at for not being in office during my transition readiness seminar. So when you do your TRS, you're getting out your final whatever, you're what's called TAD, temporarily assigned duty, meaning you don't have to be in your office because you are at a different duty. But because it was during the pandemic, they realized that it was virtual. And so they were like, you can work from the office while attending your thing. And so they yelled at me a bunch and dragged me in the office. And then I got yelled at even more that day because people would come over and try to talk to me about work. And I would go, I'm in TRS, and not help them. And then I was viewed as being disrespectful, and it became a whole thing until I threatened to go to the base and say, they're not letting me attend my TRS. And then magically I got to go home that day. I also got yelled at for not being in the office at one point while I was sick in quarters, meaning SIQ, the doctor sends you home. And they were like, you could have stayed at work. It wasn't that serious. I had a catheter in. It was pretty. Some of the more interesting things that I've seen other people get yelled at. This same gentleman, these first two things. First, before we went to Afghanistan, he couldn't find his NVGs, night vision goggles, in his barracks room, and he was always losing stuff, so they tore his barracks room apart, and he got an ass chewing. We did find them. Same gentleman in Afghanistan left his rifle unattended in a hooch, and somebody thought it'd be funny to teach him a lesson by burying it in the bucket on a truck, on a backhoe or whatever. And then no one could find it, and nobody would fess up to it, and so he got chewed out even more. I've seen a million people get chewed out for being late to things. My vehicle commander chewed out my gunner, my assistant gunner, for drinking his Dr. Pepper in Afghanistan, and that resulted in him basically getting tossed into a canal at some point. I've also seen, remember how I said I got chewed out for going home while SIQ? I had a friend get chewed out for not going home while SIQ because he wanted to keep working. So it's kind of a, and that was actually at the same command. So within 2 months of each other, I got yelled at for going home on SIQ, and he got yelled at for not going home on SIQ. Field day. Boy, I heard a lot of people get their ass chewed for stuff they got found in the barracks or their room being dirty or whatever. Probably the best was this guy who looked like he had eaten the entire store of Domino's and left the crust and pizza boxes everywhere. And then he had and toys and just dirty stuff everywhere. And they came through for the inspection. And I guess he had allegedly forgotten that field day inspection was that day. And yeah, it was not good. Things that I've yelled at people for, right? Because I've yelled at people for things that arguably I could probably go back and change. One, integrity issues, no problem with that. You're gonna lie to me, whatever. I definitely used to yell at people for like lazy excuses. One example I remember is somebody was supposed to clean up the dry sweep from an oil spill and they didn't. And I had distinctly told him the day before, like, hey, make sure you dry sweep and clean that up the way you're supposed to. And then we came back the next day and it was still sitting there. And so I blew him up and he's like, I did. And I'm like, don't lie to me. And it had rained that day. And so some of it, you know, I might have taken some liberties with deciding that some of it must have obviously dripped into the like drainage system. We had like this duct in the ground for like catch-all. And I made him go basically line by line, lift the grate, clean everything out for a minute, put that grate back, lift the next grate. And like they were all bolted in. So it was like, and he always had a problem with like tool check-in. So it was like, this is so dumb now that I look back on it. I was like 21, fresh out of Afghanistan, leave me alone. And so he had to go check out the wrench, unbolt, check the wrench back in, lift the grate, clean everything out, put the grate back down, go get the wrench, check it out, bolt that grate back down, undo the next grate, go turn the wrench back in. It took him like a full day. Sorry, buddy, if you ever watch this. Skating. And one of the ass chewings I had to give at one point, I really wanted to tell the kid, like, I'm not even mad, I'm impressed. This guy had gone through such great lengths. He took a sleeper, like what you roll it under a truck so you can like look under the truck, right? And so he's on this thing and from the side, it looks like he's looking at the drive shaft. And so I'm like, he's obviously doing his PMCS, his preventative maintenance checks and services. He's looking over this truck. And then I noticed after a while that he hadn't like moved. So I get closer and I realize he had taken, I don't know if it was zip ties or McMap belt, I don't remember, but something, and like wrapped his wrists and basically figured out how to like hold his hands up under this drive shaft and was asleep. Honestly, brilliant way to get out of work. Worked for an hour or two. Still had to chew his ass. This isn't just some dumb self-help book. This is everything I wish I'd known when I first joined the military. So scan the code, click the link in the description, download it for free today, and get yourself on the right path. This entire video stems from a Instagram post that I made. And the post says, the dumbest thing you ever got yelled at for while in the military was blank. And that post has hundreds of comments. And so I want to just read out a few of the ones that made me laugh, right? So Bill says, he got yelled at for being told to make up my bed only for it to immediately be flipped over, i.e. got yelled at to make his bed and then they his bed and he had to do it again. Jer said eating at the DFAC, which is the chow hall. And they told him to say sorry to the fish for eating it. I don't know what led up to that, but I'm sure it's funny. Mewtwo said wearing the wrong color patch on a Friday. And she was told that she would die in combat because of the lack of discipline. Elijah said that he put air in the wrong cargo container. Wrap your head around that. Air in the wrong container. I.e. pointless. Tuchan said using the wrong sized rake to put lines in my sand in 801 housing at 29 Palms. So i.e. the housing in 29 Palms, apparently they had to rake the sand and he used the wrong size rake. So the lines were the wrong size. Life of said playing with a banana in the DFAC, the chow hall. And then in parentheses it says, I wasn't playing with it. I was simply trying to open it. Jacqueline said, why she got yelled at because she couldn't find the blinker fluid. That's like hilarious to me because that's old school, like Marine Corps, like hazing stuff. Like I'm going to make a video actually on some of the old school stuff that used to happen. T said not shaving during the initial week-long invasion of Marja. The base captain from the Marine base captain of 2nd Combat Engineer Battalion, CEB, was returning to the FOB, and this guy was still like nasty and dirty from the mission and got yelled at for not shaving. right now. Mind you, you can go watch on HBO the Battle for Marja, and you can see what these guys went through in that first week. Like, they just got dropped off somewhere and had to fight their way through for a week. So imagine, like, you get through all that, you see people get shot and whatever, and then you walk into, like, the newly set up base to, like, you're like, oh, and immediately you get chewed out for not having shaved. Pretty funny. Also, I can relate. And also, I was in Marja about 2 months after that initial invasion. And so in that documentary, my trucks actually appeared at the end. Like, I can see my own trucks. So it's kind of cool. Grandmaster said, and this is the granddaddy of all granddaddy comments, the wrong color socks. I have heard that one many, many, many a time. In the Marine Corps, you're only authorized to wear certain colors of socks. It's changed over the years, but you're not allowed to wear white socks and camis. People do it, and they get blasted for it. And so, like, wearing the wrong color socks, that hit home. I have seen that. I've probably yelled at people for that. I've probably been yelled at for that. Like, it's like a rite of passage, I think. So now I want to know. First off, 2 things. 1, if you're not following the Instagram, you should go do it. It's From Military to Millionaire. We got some good stuff over there, and that'd be a good spot for you to follow along. Number 2, what is the dumbest thing you ever got yelled at for in the military? Let's keep this running, because I think this is hilarious, and I'm loving it. So let's hear what you got.